Welcome to the Midwest Marvel Podcast, a podcast for people who are passionate about pop culture, nerd culture, Marvel, all that good stuff. My name is Nick Adams. I am your host, aka Midwest Marvel Guy on TikTok and on YouTube and on Instagram and on Twitter. That's a complete shameless plug. Please go follow me. And I am here with my co-host Zeke Farnsworth, and I don't have anything quippy to say this week to introduce you. So you're just Zeke.
Just Zeke this week. That works. Ooh, bars. That was bars there.
Bars. So hey, in today's episode, we don't have She-Hulk to talk about, which seems so weird because we had 9 weeks of She-Hulk in a row, and so every single week we had a She-Hulk episode to break down, and we don't have that anymore. But instead, what we do have is we have a Phase 4 MCU show ranking that we're going to go through. So every Disney Plus show that's been put out for Marvel, we are going to rank in this episode. So really excited about that. And then a couple episodes from now, once Wakanda Forever comes out, and then we'll break that down and do an episode for that, obviously. But once that comes out and we've talked about it, we're going to do an entire Phase 4 ranking not just the shows, but the movies intertwined with it. And so we'll have all those intermixed together, ranking all those. And then at some point, we'll get really ambitious and we're going to do a ranking or a tier list or something for the entire MCU as a whole, every project that's ever been put out for the MCU. So that'll be a lengthy task, but that one should be really fun. And we got some other really, really fun ideas that we think are going to translate well to some pretty entertaining podcasts down the road. So excited for that for you guys. Oh, hey, before we get into the actual Phase 4 show rankings, one thing we did want to touch on was that Black Adam came out this week. So huge DC news. Obviously, that movie has been promoted a ton by The Rock, and I haven't gotten a chance to see it yet. And I know we talked before. You said you haven't gotten a chance. You might be seeing it tonight. So I'm excited to hear what your thoughts will end up being.
We'll go see it tonight.
Yeah.
Even though it's DC.
I do love DC. Like, I love DC. I know everyone always tries to pit them against each other. Like, the only reason, not the only reason, I mean, I do like Marvel more at its core anyway, but the big reason why I'm a much bigger Marvel fan in terms of what media is available is just because Marvel has done it better, by and large.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's like, they've promoted the heck out of this Black Adam movie, so I really do want to just show support and go watch this. Also, love The Rock.
Yeah. The Rock doesn't miss, man. You can say what you will about The Rock, but that man makes entertaining movies. He makes good, like, the dude does everything. I saw a video the other day on Instagram where he was singing a country song with somebody. Like, he was at some kind of, like, I don't know where he was, at a concert or something, and he was up on stage singing with somebody, and they were doing a country song, and he was, like, harmonizing and stuff, which, you know, like, I always forget that he can sing because he did Moana, and he did the songs for Moana in that movie, and so I forget that dude actually has a singing gift, and listen to him sing country, like, dude was breaking it down, and I swear he's just doing side quit. Like, he's like the movie star version of Shaq. You know, Shaq is just in, he has Shaq's a hand in
side quest
everything.
Side quest.
Yeah, just shows up randomly in the things that you least expect him to, and I feel like that's become The Rock. This dude's just doing whatever, and like he put out a rap song that was actually heat, and he's singing country songs, and he's apparently running the DCEU right now. Like, dude is literally, like, he's laid out the phase structure and how that's working. He spoiler for those of you that don't want to know this about Black Adam, I feel like most people know this, but I feel like it's at least worth saying spoiler. So if you don't want to know this, skip ahead like 30 seconds or so, because, or maybe a minute, because I don't want to spoil this. So this is your last chance. 3, 2, 1. But spoiler, it sounds like The Rock almost single-handedly brought back Henry Cavill as Superman, and he is in Black Adam from what I've heard. I think it's just a small cameo, but he's in it. And now this week they released news that Man of Steel 2 is beginning, like, they're starting the stages of filming that.
Yeah, I'm excited for that, but also a little disappointed because of all the rumors of Henry Cavill coming to the MCU.
Yeah, they were like, people really thought he might have been Wolverine, or it could have been cool, but
Britain, or something like that. That would have been really cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of MCU rumor castings, did you hear about Harrison Ford?
Oh, it ain't even rumor casting anymore. From what I've seen, that's fully confirmed.
It's fully confirmed.
That's, I mean, because I've seen some reputable. So, I mean, if it's not fully confirmed, then everyone's going to look like an idiot because I have seen pretty much every reputable web page, like social media page or news source that covers anything to do with Marvel or nerd stuff, has posted that he has been confirmed as Thunderbolt Ross. And so if he's not, then a bunch of people look really dumb because I think it's for sure happening. And dude, what a phenomenal casting. Holy cow.
I'm excited for that.
Yes, I am thrilled, like beyond thrilled. That, I mean, he obviously like first choice is William Hurt, and so it really does suck that he passed away because he was so perfect in that role. And I mean, I'll take him. I don't care who. I'll take him over any actor in the planet in that role, even Harrison Ford included. But if you have to make a second choice, which we do, Harrison Ford, I feel like is about as good as you're getting, and I cannot believe they got him. I did not expect him to agree to come to the MCU. Not that like the MCU is bad, but like he just kind of like he's at the end of his career. Dude is just I'm assuming being very choosy about what he's getting involved in, probably just because he wants to chill. And this dude just joined the MCU. I'm like, what?
Dude, he's chasing Oscar Isaac at this point. He's trying to get involved in Fox, Star Wars, and MCU.
That's true. Yeah, Oscar Isaac was starred in Star Wars. Yeah. So man, that's gonna be. I cannot wait. And so it sounds like we'll see him first in Captain America 4, and then obviously the Thunderbolts is the really big movie, but Captain America 4, which should just be an absolutely insane movie. I have no reason to expect that Cap 4 is going to be anything less than incredible because every other like the Cap trilogy, in my opinion, is the best trilogy in the MCU, and it's not even close. And so in my opinion, I love the Spider-Man trilogy, and I love the Spider-Man trilogy is probably the only other one to me that I feel like competes. But like
that's what I was gonna say. I was like, I personally, but I think it's because Spider-Man is my favorite. So
okay, and I love Spider. Like No Way Home is an insanely good movie. That's a top 10 MCU for me. But when I look at the Cap trilogy from top to bottom, like you have Civil War, which by most people's accounts is top 10. Some people even throw that movie in top 5. You have Winter Soldier, which a lot of people don't just have top 5, but have number 1. And I have it number 1 personally. And then you have the first Avenger, which was still like one of the best. It's one of the best origin stories in the MCU. And I know a decent amount of people that throw that in the top 10 in their MCU movies. I don't quite know where I have it ranked, but it holds up really well. And for me, like Spider-Man No Way Home is amazing. Spider-Man Homecoming is actually really good. I feel like Far From Home also really good, but I feel like it falls like those didn't wow me as much as like Winter Soldier wowed me. Right. Civil War wowed me. First Avenger is kind of like on par with those movies, but yeah, argue as long as it's not the Thor trilogy, like we can agree on that. Like the Thor trilogy, not there.
Unfortunately, that one is not the best.
Gosh, dude. Yeah.
Unfortunately, it could have been.
Yeah. Well,
correctly. But.
Well, I don't know. Thor: Love and Thunder could have been on an Endgame level, and I still don't know if it would have balanced out Thor: The Dark World. I guess you could have just removed it at that point because there are 4 movies. But Guardians.
I was just saying. Yeah, if Thor: The Dark World.
The Dark World.
Wow, words are hard.
Words are very hard, people.
Yeah, if Thor 2 were if it were directed better, everything was just better about it. That would like Thor is just a lovable character because people still love Thor.
Oh yeah. Despite the amount of times that the bag has been fumbled with some of those movies, people still thoroughly enjoy Thor. Yeah, just please get that man in some better hands. Guardians of the Galaxy could end up being like there may definitely be an argument for that being the best trilogy because James Gunn doesn't miss. There's no reason to think Guardians 3 is going to all of a sudden flop. I fully assume that movie is going to be incredible. I personally might still pick the Captain just because, again, Winter Soldier being my favorite makes it really hard for me to put Cap trilogy below anything, but we'll see. I may eat my words I don't know when Guardians 3 comes out. I know it's got a while, but it'll be fun. So, all right. Let's get into the rankings, though. So here's how we're going to do this. I'm going to pull this new screen up. Zeke can't see this, but on, those of you guys watching on YouTube, you can. If you're on the podcast, listening to us on a podcast platform, check out our YouTube page. Well, my YouTube, I guess it's our YouTube page because Zeke is on there and all the podcast videos. But I also throw, it's Midwest Marvel Guy. It's just the YouTube name. Same as you see it on everything else, except there are actually spaces in the name. But been doing a lot of stuff on YouTube, throwing a lot of shorts up on there. Got all the podcast stuff on there. Going to try to do some other videos, and so really trying to build that platform up. So if you guys would be so kind as to subscribe to that and check that out. But if you ever want to see these podcasts in video form, and for those of you that maybe don't know what we look like and you're just watching, like I promise, Zeke's a good looking dude. I'm bald, but Zeke's a good looking guy, so you can look at him. And yeah, on this particular podcast, I have a chart that's up next to us that has a ranking column for all 9 show spots for my rankings, and then Zeke's rankings, and I'll be dragging the different show logos into where we're ranking them. But we're going to start down at the bottom. We'll give reasons for each of our rankings and talk about some of our favorite episodes. For ones that we have least favorite episodes on, we'll talk about that. And we're just going to work our way all the way up from 9 up into 1. So just to kind of make aware what shows that we have that we're working with here. So we're not using any of the Netflix-based Disney Plus shows. So even though they're on Disney Plus, they weren't created by Disney Plus. So those are not in the conversation. Same for like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Agent Carter, all that stuff. So this is just strictly Marvel shows that have come out on Disney Plus in Phase 4. So you got, in no particular order, Moon Knight, Miss Marvel, She-Hulk, Falcon Winter Soldier, WandaVision, Loki, What If, Hawkeye, and I Am Groot, because it was technically a show, even though it was a bunch of shorts. So we're going to rank that. I don't know if poor Groot is going to make it very high in any of the rankings, but but we're gonna throw them on there. So yes, starting the rankings off, baby. So I'll get us started off. The number 9 spot for me in the shows is I Am Groot. I really don't feel like there is anything else for me to put in this one. I Am Groot was. I mean, what else do we expect? We knew it was shorts going into it. I will say I was a little disappointed because I do feel like they could have made them quite a bit longer. Like, I didn't need them to be
for sure
30-minute episodes, but
20,
some
10, 15.
Bro, even like 5 would have been like actual 5 minutes of content, because they were like 2 minutes. And I feel like some of them might even be less than that. And so, yeah. They were entertaining. The ones that we watched, I really liked them, but
it's a great way to get your kids introduced to the MCU.
Yeah. I mean, it was so cute, but again, yeah, don't even know what to say. Like there just wasn't much of a story. It was. I'm glad I watched it. My kid will watch it for sure. But yeah, so that's number 9 for me. I won't waste any time talking about I Am Groot.
You know what? It's the same for me. I Am Groot.
Yeah, I kind of figured.
9. That's where I'm starting. I will say my favorite episode though was the one with the little guys that were shooting at him.
Yeah, bro. And I thought like
that was a funny one.
And I can't remember. Did he end up killing them all, or like did they survived? Right? Like you think that think that he kills them? Because that had me at first. I was like, bro, did I just witness this dude murder an entire civilization in a kid short? Like that was hilarious. Yeah, that show had some moments that really did make me laugh. It was super cute, but yeah. just very short. I forgot about that. That was so funny. All right, go ahead and hit me with what your number 8 spot is.
All right, in my number 8 spot, from here on out, it was very difficult for me.
I changed my rankings, especially in the top half. Like my rankings have changed like 5 times in the last 12 hours.
Yeah, 1 through 4 for me changed, and then 5 through 8. Like I really think 5 through 8 here could be like
interchangeable.
You could place them.
Yeah.
But at number 8, I have Hawkeye.
Okay.
And I don't really have a good reasoning for it. I just
it's just there.
I think I'm mad at it for not giving us a Spider-Man cameo when they clearly could have.
Yeah.
especially at the very end there when it's in Christmas and Spider-Man. The last Spider-Man ended with him swinging through at Christmas.
That
It
was
was
a
like,
nasty tease, dude. Like Marvel, you got to time that one better.
it was just like I was I was so hype on that. I was like, oh, this is definitely going to happen. Like I'm going to see like even for
It
like
seemed
3
like a
seconds.
certainty.
Right. Yeah, like I was kind of expecting her to say some like quip like, like who the hell are you or something like that. And it's like, oh yeah, that's how the Doctor Strange spell like things are
Yeah.
coming together like Clint Barton wouldn't recognize them and like,
Yeah.
it'd be like, oh, like okay, so this is kind of it just would have explained
Yeah.
a lot of things further. So
That's
that's why I
fair.
have Hawkeye at number 8.
That's fair. That's
The
fair.
finale was
I can
very
rock
good
with
though, I
that.
will say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And I won't divulge any about Hawkeye on my opinions because obviously I'll save that for my ranking. So my number 8, I have What If. What If, again, very entertaining, and I did not dislike. I should preface it with that I didn't dislike anything on this list. Like every single MCU show I liked, and we've talked about this before because I watch these shows. I watch Marvel. I watch pretty much anything, movies or TV, to be entertained. Like, yes, I look at it with a critical eye to some extent, and I can be honest about where things fell short. But even if I'm admitting that it fell short in areas, it doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it, because typically I'm the personality type. I just enjoy almost everything. So even if I know that it is not structured as a great TV show or as a great movie, or if it has massive faults, I can still enjoy it even knowing that. I know some people are unable to look past that, and I get that. I'm fine with it. For me, I can look past all those things and still find enjoyment out of things that I know are objectively bad. Not saying that What If was objectively bad. I thought What If was actually very well done. The animation was insanely good. Just
Awesome.
visually stunning. Some of the storylines were wildly creative. Like, it was so cool each week to see like what the new storyline was going to be and how they were going to put their own unique creative twists on the different characters. The zombies episode was so wild and fun. For me, the thing that keeps it number 8 is, personally, it was just really hard to keep interest when basically every episode was a standalone. And I know it did come together at the end, and it ended up like merging it all together. But by and large, up until the last 2 episodes, they were all standalones pretty much. And so emotionally, it was just harder to get invested, if that makes sense. And again, loved each episode by itself. I think my least favorite was the Captain Carter one. Actually, not even. It's not that I think. I know the least favorite was the Captain Carter one for me, because I feel like that one had the least creativity in its storyline. It basically just felt almost exactly like a carbon copy of the Captain America First Avenger storyline. They just plucked her into it. And so I feel like that lost a lot of people, because I know a lot of people who stopped watching What If, like they gave episode 1 a shot and they're like, yeah, it's not for me. I feel like that was a horrible way to start. Like, that lost my wife. My wife saw that first episode. She was like, this show's stupid. Like, it was exactly what Captain America was, just with a girl. I'm like, yeah, I get that. And then it got way more creative as the episodes went on. I really think they should have started with something else other than Captain Carter, personally. That was my least favorite. My favorite episode was What If Ultron won, which was episode 8, so the second to last episode, bro. And like the thing that I'll always remember about that episode, and what stands out to me as making it my favorite, is that that's the episode where Ultron gains that, like, he gains the what is it? Is it omniscience? Is omniscient all knowing?
Yeah.
Yeah, he gains that omniscience, and all of a sudden is aware that the Watcher's watching him from the nexus of all realities. And that's like such an eerie moment when he like looks at him and realizes like, hey, I see you, you're there. And he breaks in like, if the rest of the show was like the last 2 episodes, it would probably be much, much higher on my list. And yeah, the last 2 episodes were extremely, extremely well done in that. So yeah, number 8, still really enjoyed it. I'm really excited for season 2. I can't wait to see what storylines that they do. But yeah, so that's number 8 for me. Number 7, I'll start off my number 7. Dude, see, this is where it gets so tough for
So
me.
hard.
This is where it gets so tough. And honestly, you said it perfectly. Like I feel like my 5 through 7 have done a merry-go-round of switching. And so, yeah, these could go anywhere. I feel like a hypocrite because of where I'm about to rank the show, because when the show was out, I was talking about how it was one of the best MCU shows, and I still do think like it is. My number 7 spot is Miss Marvel. So here's why. Here's what I loved about Miss Marvel, and then here's why it's in my 7th spot. So Miss Marvel, I do still think to this day that objectively, Miss Marvel is maybe the most just well structured, might be the most well paced, just as a show. Like the depth of it, the characters, and how well it just dives into the story and the development of Kamala Khan. As a show, I still think it's like 1 or 2. Just as constructed, if we're just looking at it with a critical eye, it was extremely well done. Characters, amazing. I loved almost every character in that show. I thought Kamala Khan was so stinking good. Aman Vellani portrayed her so well, and it came like, because in real life she is a super nerd for Marvel, and it was like her first ever gig that she had done in acting, and she's just been a Marvel nerd her entire life. And so can you imagine being in her shoes? Like, she's living the life that we all want to live. Like, we're Marvel nerds. Right. If Marvel came to me tomorrow and was like, hey, do you want to star as a superhero in one of our movies? I'm like, I wouldn't know how to act. And that's what she gets to do. Like, she literally like just gets plucked into this world, and it comes across like you see her passion in the show, and it was so good. As an origin story, it's so good. I felt like that show did a really good job of documenting her struggle with just learning how to handle her powers and learning how to be an actual superhero. Because earlier on in the MCU, I feel like, again, those origin stories are great, but I do feel like there's an element of like, oh, I have powers. Oh, here's 5 minutes of me figuring out how to use them. Okay, now I'm seasoned. Like I know how to use my powers. I can save the world. And for her, it was very much like she didn't really find her footing with her powers and just being a superhero until toward the end of that season, which is great. Favorite episode was the finale. I thought that was one of the, and we may rank finales here toward the end, depending on how much time we have. We just may make it go quick, but I felt like that was one of the best finales out of any MCU show. It was so good.
It was really good
from start to finish. Amazing finale. So the reason why I have it ranked at number 7 is because for me, now that it's had time to marinate and I sit and think about it, I don't have that many like memorable, iconic moments from the show that stick with me still, if that makes sense. So like for pretty much every other episode on my list, I'll be able to identify like, oh man, this was an iconic moment that was just like, this is the moment I knew like this show had me, or like this is what I'll always remember about this show. For whatever reason, Miss Marvel just didn't, like, it wasn't quite as memorable for me, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, because I'm sure if I go back and I watch the show again, I'll really enjoy it because it was a good show. But looking back, ranking them, I have to be picky, and so for me, that's the thing that bumps it to number 7.
My number 7 is sort of unfortunate, but it's She-Hulk.
Okay.
And it's not because it's like I said earlier, these are all in my head interchangeable.
Right. They got to be ranked somewhere.
Right. And so I think for me, I just think that I just have shows or characters that I like better personally.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I will say She-Hulk finale for me.
So good.
Oh, is way up there.
So good.
For sure. But
and we haven't got to talk about that. So yeah, we do need to rank the finale so we can at least talk about the finale for like 2 or 3 minutes, because we haven't actually gotten to talk about it aside from texting.
But She-Hulk, I love the show. I think I like more action, and I think that's why the show would go so low for me.
Yeah.
Is because there wasn't a whole, like, when and in that finale when they had like three different Hulks in there, I was like, oh, this is about to be something's about to happen. And I was like immediately going off with theories, and then, but I still love the whole, fourth wall, like complete break
Yeah.
of like going into Marvel Studios and all
It's
that.
earth
I thought that was
shattering.
really cool. But I have, I think I could see She-Hulk becoming one of my favorite characters. I would just
Yeah,
need more of her. I just have
that's fair.
a few things above them that I'm just like, you know what? Like it's just a little better.
Yeah. I get that. I get that. I respect it. I respect, like, yeah, like you said, they got to be ranked somewhere, and so something's got to take the seventh spot, and yeah,
Right.
and I totally resonate with the character thing too. That, I mean, that's going to come into one of my rankings later on, for
Mhm.
sure. So I feel that on a deep level. All
Yeah.
right, number six. What do you got for number six?
So my number 6 is Miss Marvel.
Okay,
I just thoroughly enjoyed this show. I think it's because it dove into a lot of Pakistani history,
that was
and
super cool.
I am a big history nerd, so I love like learning about that all that stuff. It
Yeah, I
made
learned
me
a
do
lot of
like
that
a
stuff for the first time, which was really neat.
yeah, it made me do like a whole deep dive into the partition. Like I
Right,
watched like a
same.
lot of like yeah, and read a lot, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I had no idea, and it like opened up conversations for me at work with some people I work with and things like that, like getting to hear like their
Yeah.
own partition story and all that stuff, which is really cool. Um, so I
I'm gonna
think
be honest.
that's
This is showing my ignorance, but that was the first time I had ever even heard of the partition. So I know that's bad
same
on my
here.
part, but like which I think just reflects on society as a whole, that like we have literally pushed their culture that much to the side
Right.
and neglected them that much that like people like me, like just like 34-year-old white man, like I've never even heard of it. So shame on me, but also shame on society for not putting that more toward the forefront.
Right. And yeah, like especially from like a Christian point of view, like I just was able to open up a lot of good conversations for me
Yeah,
in different places. But also I just love the character of Miss Marvel. I thought she was great. I thought
so
she
well
was
done.
funny and quirky. Um and I think it opened up a lot for mutants in the MCU, which
Yes,
I was hyped for.
that reveal was great.
And yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited because it's a young character that we're going to be able to see for a while.
Yep. Hey, yeah, another piece of that Young Avengers. Another thing on Miss Marvel that I will say is there was a lot of controversy about her powers and the fact that they changed them because her powers are much more Mr. Fantastic like in the comics, where she's
Yeah.
just very stretchy. And obviously she had like the light bending. But I think that her powers worked super well. I love the change. And the
Hmm.
reason that I feel like the change was great is because I personally do not feel like Mr. Fantastic's powers translate super well on screen. And I know that like his powers are going to be what they are when the Fantastic Four is introduced. Like they're not going to change his
Hmm.
powers because he is such a
An
main
iconic
character in the
character.
MCU,
Yeah.
yeah, or in Marvel. But for her, like she's a little more like she's new even in the comics. Like she's not
Hmm.
been around for a long time at all. So
Like
she's
2014, right?
yeah, so she's new in general. And so obviously not that much of a build up yet in fan base or anything like that. I feel like it worked because I feel like the light thing translated so much better on screen. It looked cool visually. And also, oops, a little alarm there. And also, they were able to still like she still had elements of her like original powers, like the stretching and stuff. Like
Hmm.
you saw that a ton. But it just looked different. She was able to do a little bit different stuff, like the creating the steps that she could walk on, which looked really cool.
Right.
Yeah, I personally loved the power change.
All right. So what do you have at number 6 then? Because you had
Okay.
Miss Marvel at number
Yeah,
7.
Miss Marvel at number 7. You had it at number 6. So, dude, like the next two shows, dude, yeah, I could say it about every single one. I've moved all these around so much. My number 6 is the Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Oh no.
The Falcon and the Winter Soldier is number 6 for me. So that one, I actually went back and forth with having that at the number 7 spot at times, and Miss Marvel at the number 6. And so here are my thoughts about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Starting off, like I remember watching the first 3-4 episodes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier and being like, this could be epic. And the last 2 episodes fell very flat for me. They were still iconic. Like the thing that put it over Miss Marvel for me is that Falcon and the Winter Soldier had some iconic moments, like some of the most iconic moments out of any Disney Plus show. Like you had John Walker with the shield in episode 4, which was just, I mean, that was my favorite episode, was episode 4, which was The World Is Watching. And I just remember, when he kills that dude with the shield, and like, I don't know if he decapitates him or what he ended up doing, but you just see the blood on the shield and everybody's watching. And then you had that anticipation for a week of like, dude, what are Sam and Bucky going to do to this man now that he just did this? And then they had that fight at the start of episode 5, which was an epic fight. Like that fight was so good. And John like asks them, or tells them like, you don't want to do this. And Bucky looks at him like so cold and is just like, yeah, we do. And I was like, oh man. Like,
here we go.
Yeah, dude, that fight, that moment was unbelievable. And then you have the reveal of Sam Wilson's Captain America, which was also, Cap's one of my favorite characters. So good. You have Sam's speech in the finale. So good. And then the whole Isaiah Bradley stuff and Zemo, like just Zemo being in that was easily one of the best parts. So talking about it sounds like, man, I should have this ranked so much more. But the thing for me is just that the show really, like, I felt like the show started with the tone that it did not keep. And I feel like that's been the issue for a lot of Disney Plus Marvel shows, is that like, and the same thing for like WandaVision, like, but I do have that ranked higher, obviously, and I'll talk about why. But like, it didn't keep the same tone that it started with, and I feel like it was pretty bland at times. I don't know if the writing was always that great, and the finale fell pretty flat for me, especially given like what I think it could have been. The villain was insanely weak, and that's really what hurt the show for me, in my opinion, is that the Flag Smashers were such a weak villain, and they could have been good, and I just don't feel like they were well done at all. And then you had the power broker thing with Sharon Carter, and they teased this power broker up to be this huge like secret villain, and online everybody was theorizing like, oh, it's going to be Sharon Carter, but we're all hoping we're wrong because it was so obvious in the show who it would be. And then I remember they revealed her, and the show tried to make it out to be this like, oh, like you didn't see that coming, like big reveal, and all of us are just like, no, we've known this since like episode 2, like the first episode we saw her, and out of like all that stuff just missed for me. And so, yeah, again, as tough for me to rank that there, because Captain America, Falcon, Winter, like all those characters are some of my all-time favorites. Like I said, Captain America, the Winter Soldier is my number 1 favorite MCU movie. The show just didn't quite hit as much as some of the others. So those are my thoughts, but I would love to hear your numbers. Oh no, we're on number 5. So I'm giving number 5.
Number 5.
Yeah. Okay. So my number 5 is Hawkeye, and I got to find Hawkeye on my thing. There it is. Number 5 is Hawkeye, dude. I thoroughly enjoyed Hawkeye. One thing about Hawkeye that really puts it up in, like, I guess it's not technically the top half of my rankings, but throws it at number 5 and puts it above some of those other shows, is I felt like every single episode was just so much fun. I don't know that there was a bad episode of Hawkeye. Like I can remember for a lot of these shows that there are episodes that I remember sitting and watching and thinking like, okay, like, this one's just okay. Can't wait for next week. But for Hawkeye, for me personally, I don't remember there being any of those, like any down episodes. I loved every single one of them. Kate Bishop is easily one of the best additions to the MCU, and Haley Steinfeld as a casting was just a phenomenal home run choice. And then her chemistry, not just with Hawkeye, but especially her chemistry with Yelena, Florence Pugh. Well, I mean, they are easily one of the best duos in the entire MCU. They were phenomenal on screen every single time they were on there, and they need their own show so bad.
Own show or own movie.
Yes.
I would not mind a movie.
Yes, dude. Like they were amazing. And so, yeah, I don't know. I loved the vibe of Hawkeye. I thought it was so fun and so well done. And it doesn't necessarily have any like really major iconic moments, at least not that I really remember, but it was just, I don't know. I had a lot of fun. And so my favorite episode was episode 5, Ronin, which is the episode where Kate and Yelena meet and, you know, they're in her apartment and that whole thing just so good. So yeah, that's number 5 for me. I don't have a least favorite episode for that one.
Right. My number 5 is What If. I thoroughly enjoyed that one. I'm going to go out on a little bit of a limb and disagree with you. I loved how they started off with Captain Carter in the first episode.
Okay.
And that, because I originally was on the same page as you, and Carly, where I was like, oh, like I wish they didn't start that way. But then, like the more, because that's the one I've rewatched the most so far.
Really?
Yeah.
That episode or the show as a whole?
Just the show as a whole, but that episode particularly, like I love how it's like, because I feel like that's where it's a possibility where the MCU is heading, where we get a bunch of like origin stories or like team ups and things like that, and then we're gonna have like a big thing where it's like threatening the universe at the end, or the multiverse or something along those lines, where we have to kind of get used to the fact. I think this was Marvel's way of being like, oh, what are people gonna think of like if we do like
some of these characters that you love are gonna be different and
right. And but I also just I like Haley Atwell a lot. I think she's an amazing actress.
She's great.
And so I would love to see her like more live action of Captain Carter, other than she got.
I would imagine we will. She got she got sliced in half.
Murked her. But What If for me, that finale was awesome.
That was a great finale.
I like that Thor for some reason. Like I thought was hilarious.
Party Thor.
Yeah, Party Thor.
Yeah.
Like it in my head, I was like, that just makes, because it like almost lined up with like how the first Thor started out with. Like if he would have landed in Vegas, like I could totally see that going in that direction.
Yeah, he just happened to land. I forget where he landed, but middle of literal nowhere.
Yeah, and like Arizona or something like that.
Yeah,
Arizona's bad. It's very beautiful there, but it's like, I don't know. I just, all the characters, like the slight variations with it, and then my favorite episode was Hank Pym taking down the Avengers.
Yeah, that one was wild.
That one was, I was like,
I forgot about that one.
You know what? Yeah, because I was like, I think they're trying to show like how tough an Ant-Man could be.
Oh, for sure. Well, and kind of, I think that episode was also a nod to the fact that Hank Pym is actually the creator of the Avengers in the comics. Like he is the founder. He's Tony Stark, and people don't realize like Tony Stark was not like the A-list character that he is in the movies. In the comics, right away, like Hank Pym created the Avengers, and Ant-Man and the Wasp were founding members. Black Widow was not in the Avengers right away. Neither was Captain America, which a lot of people don't realize. He came pretty shortly after, but I think that episode was a big nod to Hank Pym actually being the founder.
Yep.
That was cool.
So yeah.
Nice.
What was your
I respect
5?
it. Interestingly enough, when looking at IMDb, I was just like scrolling through mostly just to see like episode summaries. And just trying to like refresh my memory without having to watch every single episode over again. Right. But like looking at the IMDb ratings, obviously it's not everything because things can be review bombed. But What If has one of the higher rankings of any show. But again, like I think it's extremely well done. So it's just all preference based on style. But looking at objectively as a show, it is very well done, and I loved it.
Yeah. And it's one of the last things we got to hear of Chadwick Boseman as well. So I think
that is one of my favorite episodes. Mm-hmm. Not even just because of him, which obviously has a big part of it, but also just the creativity. I loved his arc as Star-Lord. I thought it was so cool and so well done. And there were a lot of moments, because that was the one where Thanos showed up too, right? And like Thanos was kind of a part of the Guardians. It was so random but cool. Like I loved that.
Like, oh, like he's a good dad in this one.
Yeah.
Like we don't have any more toxic fathers.
I know. I thought it was so neat seeing Thanos in that light, and that was so unexpected for me. So, yeah, Yeah. A lot of really good episodes. I will 100% agree. My number
What was your
four.
number five?
Well, number five for me was Hawkeye.
Oh yeah, that's
So,
right. That's right. Yeah.
so,
You're number four.
so moving on to number four. My number four is She-Hulk. And oops, I didn't mean to move Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Number four is She-Hulk for me. And I know some of the toxic fanboys will hate this, but it is what it is. Also, you may hear my son in the background. It sounds like he's not having a great time during feeding. But yeah, man, even looking back at the show, I loved She-Hulk. It was so fresh. I thoroughly enjoyed kind of the reason that you had it ranked lower because you're much more of an action guy. I love the action too, but I also loved just that they did something new and fresh, and like the whole sitcom thing really hit for me. And I know it didn't for everybody, but the sitcom thing, I loved it.
Yeah.
I'm not without the ability to realize that some of those episodes or arcs could have been done better. It definitely is not a show without faults by any means, but overall, for as different as it was, I loved it.
Definitely way more of the funnier show. Probably the funniest show.
In my opinion, yes, it was.
Probably one of the most relatable characters as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think that, and again, we talk about castings like Tatiana Maslany, one of the best castings. If we had to rank castings for the MCU, like in Phase 4, I probably put Oscar Isaac number one, and that might be some bias there. And then she's number two for me. Kate Bishop probably number three.
Yeah, I would probably agree there, but
yeah, my favorite episode was Ribbit and Rip It, which was episode 8 with Daredevil. And again, some bias there because Daredevil's my favorite superhero. But also, I just thought that episode was so, like, just as an episode, like, Jen's involvement in that episode was, like, that was her at her best. Her at Jen's best and at She-Hulk's best. The way that episode was written and the structure of that episode was easily the best out of all of them. The action, there was great action in that episode. Like, we got a freaking Daredevil hallway scene in that episode. And we got to see Daredevil and She-Hulk fight. And that was so well done. And then just seeing the courtroom scenes with Matt and Jen was great. That episode was fantastic. And then the finale is kind of an honorable mention because, yeah, we'll talk about that, but that was insane. Least favorite episode was The Retreat, which was the episode before the Daredevil one, where Jen goes to the retreat with Blonsky and the different guys. Like, yeah, it was cool seeing those, unique, like, D and E list superheroes. I don't know. That episode was just kind of boring to me. And yeah, it had parts that made me laugh. It was good at times, but by and large, it didn't hit for me. And I understand that that's kind of the way it was for a lot of people for a decent amount of the episodes. Yeah, I most of the episodes I love, but that one especially, it just wasn't quite there.
Yeah. My number 4 is WandaVision.
Okay.
It was my number 1 for a while, but after a few other shows came out and I rewatched one, it has since moved to number 4.
Took it down a couple notches.
Yeah. I thoroughly enjoyed it. That needed to come out.
That was the perfect start to Phase 4.
Yes.
And the shows.
I 100% agree. I think Doctor Strange needed to come out very shortly after that. And
which I think was the plan of it initially. Yeah. I think that was the plan. I agree.
But I really liked. I just liked everything that went down in it. It made because at the very end, you realize it's like, oh shoot, like she's not completely in control, and then she gets a hold of the Darkhold, and you're like, oh crap, like she decided she went there.
Yeah,
she went there. You thought she might hold on to some good for a little bit. It's not that she's not good, but
yeah, she all that trauma and with the circumstances, it pushed her over that ledge.
Right, and also Vision's one of my favorite characters in the MCU, so I'm like, I loved Vision.
So it's a great Vision show, yeah.
Yeah, and I want to see. I have no idea where White Vision's at.
He's somewhere.
He's somewhere out there. But Yeah, I was it was super cool to see that happen.
Yeah.
Um, and then her kids, Billy and Tommy, I hope to see them again and as
Yeah.
Wiccan and Speed. So
I'm sure we will. Young Avengers is clearly being formed, so
yeah,
there's
especially
no
with
way that's the last
Scar.
we've seen. Yeah. No way there's the last we've seen of them.
So
That's great. And I'm actually just going to go right into my number 3 because my number 3 is WandaVision. So we have that ranked very close. Like you said, there was not even though I have 2 shows ranked higher than it, there was not a better show to start off the MCU shows than WandaVision. I mean, when you
yeah,
think about that time, like Endgame was still pretty fresh in everyone's minds. So everyone's like super excited about, okay, what comes next? Like we got Far From Home, but Far From Home it didn't feel like phase 4 because it came so quickly after Endgame. It was like, it still feels like phase 3, but it was technically the start, or maybe it was the end of phase 4. I can't remember how that started.
Far From Home.
Yeah. Was that phase 4 or was that technically phase 3? I don't remember.
It was like I
Maybe
feel
it
like
was
they
phase
threw
3.
it in phase. I feel like they threw it in phase 4, but I feel like it's a good like transition into phase 4 for us. Like it's a transition piece from phase 3 to
Yeah.
phase 4.
Because it doesn't feel like phase 4,
No.
but yeah, so WandaVision really was like, yeah, kind of the kickoff for phase 4. And like, man, it was because you want,
Because it introduced shows too.
yeah, it introduced shows and to really build hype, you want to get people talking. And no show in the MCU, even since, has gotten people talking like WandaVision did because the mystery of that show is what made it so captivating. Because for literally like 5 or 6 episodes, you had no idea what the heck was going on. And you were still
Right.
trying to figure out, like, first of all, you're trying to figure out like why the sitcoms are happening. Like why is a show a sitcom for the first 3 episodes? And what, like, it's an eerie sitcom though, because like I remember in the first episode, the whole thing just feels like a 50s sitcom, and it's just quirky and funny and kind of weird. And then at the end, excuse me, at the end, at that dinner table scene, like the
Yeah, that
boss
was
starts to
creepy.
choke, and like the wife ends up being like super weird about it, and like everything just breaks character. And at that moment, you knew like, okay, something is off. Like something is not right that's going on here. But we had no idea what it was, and we didn't know until way later. And then you're trying to figure out like how is Vision still here, because this dude's supposed to be dead. And
Exactly.
bro, and then trying to figure out, okay, who's actually the villain here, and it ends up being Agatha. Every single week of that episode, every single week of that show was truly an event. Like I just remember
Yes.
message boards were on fire. Everyone was texting about WandaVision the moment it came out, because you had to like see if your friends were watching it and what they thought their theories about the show were.
That's the only show that I've stayed up every night till like 3 a.m. to watch.
To make sure. Yeah, dude. It
Yeah,
was
I watched it as soon as it came out. And I remember one night it came out an hour later than I anticipated. They had like technical difficulties, and I was like, "Gosh, dang it!"
dude, it was
Because I
just
had a 9 a.m. the next day, and I was like, "Ooh,
the sacrifices that were made. It was built different, man. And my favorite episode was the episode 4, which some about the MCU shows in episode 4s just hit different. But that was We Interrupt This Program. So that's the episode where things really started to get wild, where it first really deviated from the sitcom thing. And you got to see, because I think that's the episode where it starts by showing Maria Rambeau and she gets snapped, and then it shows her coming back. And that's the first time we ever see the effects of the snap post Endgame. Like no other movie or project had shown us that yet. So that was our first time getting to experience what the snap was like in real time for anybody who
Right.
wasn't the Avengers. And yeah, that's when every like, you know what hit the fan, and everything just started popping off. And that was, I mean, I was hooked before that, but that episode was just where my mind was physically blown.
right."
Yeah, it was so good. And honestly, like, yeah, I had WandaVision. Like at one point, think I had it at like 5. And as I'm like sitting there rethinking through everything, I was like, man, it was so epic and so well done. I just don't know how I cannot rank it in my top 4 or 3.
Yeah, me either. And I remember hearing the hate on that show, and I'm like, I don't know. I am baffled on how there could be hate for that show.
Yeah, it was.
Genuinely, I'm like that show. Like, I feel like if I showed that to a non MCU nerd, just someone
Oh, yeah.
like they'd be
Super
like, "Oh,
captivating.
this one's like I'm interested. I'm they'd watch every episode and be like, "Oh, dang.
Yep.
Like that's crazy."
Yeah,
Yep.
I
Yeah,
agree.
but
All right, you're number 3.
there's your my number 3 is Loki.
See, now we got to
Um
fight.
well, okay.
Now,
Yeah.
now we have to stop and throw hands. I'm
I
kidding.
originally had Loki was the one that I had at 4
Okay.
originally, but I just recently rewatched it.
Okay. Well, it's a good
And
thing
I
you
was
didn't have
like
it at number 4 because then computer screen might have gone. No, I'm kidding.
but yeah, Loki's at number 3. I would love to rank it higher if I didn't have bias towards the next two.
Okay.
I there's
That's fair.
100% bias in my next 2 rankings.
I respect it.
But Loki, I will say, probably objectively speaking, is the best MCU show that we've got so far.
Okay, I'll take it.
Um,
I accept your answer.
yeah, the characters, I just it made me love Loki so much. And I'm excited to see where he's going with it because I think everything post Loki is going to be different because that is what established the multiverse and everything with the branches and timelines and things like that. Everything that happened, anything that's going to happen post Loki, there's a possibility that is on a branch timeline of some sort.
Yep.
And so I'm very appreciative for that being set up. Also sets up our guy Jonathan Majors, Kang the Conqueror.
Yeah, man.
And that was just amazing.
Avengers are in trouble.
They really are. It's like we are going to see some go down.
We're gonna see butt whooping on a whole new level, man.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I can't wait.
I mean, we know Jonathan Majors is all beefed up now because we've seen the Creed posters.
Yeah.
So,
oh my gosh, yeah.
But anyway, a little diversion there. But Loki, I have ranked at 3. I would love to rank higher if I didn't have bias towards the next 2, but Loki's at number 3, and
I respect it. All right, so my number 2, dude. My number 2 and number 1 have literally switched a million times, and I honestly, you ask me tomorrow, this might be different. So yeah, but for now, this is the ranking, and my number 2 is Moon Knight. And
no,
for as much as I talk about Moon Knight on the show and how much I love Moon Knight, and I just got a Moon Knight Funko Pop yesterday, and I have another one coming in today. There he is. But for as much as I love Moon Knight and adore him, it's number 2. And really the explanation for it will be when I talk about number 1, which is obvious what that is now by process of elimination. But yeah, Moon Knight, one of my favorite all-time characters. Just reading, I didn't know much about Moon Knight prior to the show. Before the show, about a month before, I started reading the Moon Knight comics. And once I started reading the Moon Knight comics, especially as I got into some of the newer Moon Knight comics, I was hooked. And instantly, before the show started, I was beyond hyped because I was like, this kid, like, how have I never looked into this character? This dude is so freaking cool. Like his story and just the way he's portrayed throughout different comics and his abilities, just all that stuff was amazing. And then the show happened. Yeah. And Oscar Isaac gave some of the best MCU performances that we've ever seen. And Arthur Harrow, in my opinion, was a fantastic villain. I loved Ethan Hawke's portrayal of him. He gave me very heavy Kingpin vibes, just in the sense that, like, he was always very calm and collected for the most part. But there was that inner, like, he still had that inner rage that made him like a villain. And so you knew, like, he wasn't this nice, calm, peaceful guy that he always portrayed himself to be. Like, he was still a villain deep down, but he was a sympathetic villain because you could have made an argument that his viewpoint was right in some ways, which I always love that in a villain. So, and Ethan Hawke is just a fantastic actor.
Right. Ethan Hawke is amazing. Have you seen him in Black Phone or?
I've not seen Black Phone yet, but I really want to. I've heard that that's so stinking good.
Yeah. And I don't know how Moon Knight went so under the radar as a character. Like, I totally agree. Like, just not a lot of people know about him.
Yeah. But now that I am a Moon Knight fan and I read more stuff about Moon Knight, like I see a lot of people who have been like, yeah, Moon Knight's been my favorite character even well before the show, and I can see why. My favorite episode by far is Asylum, which was episode number 5, and I personally think that Asylum is one of the best pieces of content the MCU has ever put out. Period. Whether movie, show, just standalone by itself, Asylum is so well done. It is. I think it's the most emotional piece of content that's ever been put out for the MCU, and that's saying something because I tear up and cry every single time I watch Endgame. But just on an emotional, like traumatic level, Asylum just hits differently. Like they did such a great job of documenting and showing Mark Spector's struggle with his DID, with his family, and the sins of his past life, and how that turned into Stephen Grant and how he tried to suppress that. And gosh, it was just so well done. And then at the end, you think Stephen Grant dies, and like then it just hits you even harder. And Moon Knight was incredible. My least favorite episode was still really good, but the Friendly Type, which was episode 3, just kind of felt all over the place a little bit. That was the episode with Midnight Man, Anton Mogart, and they go and they get the I forget what's it called. They try to find the sarcophagus or whatever because he has that, and it has the map that shows them where Amit's tomb is at. That episode just didn't hit quite as much. I still really enjoyed it, but yeah, Moon Knight as there's our time warning. Moon Knight is number 2 for me, and I don't really have anything to say bad about it. It's just that number 1 will have edged it out, and I'll talk about that.
All right, my number 2, like I was saying earlier, these two are biased. My number 2 is Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or Captain America and White Wolf. In there.
Should have been titled that at the end. Yeah, I don't know why it wasn't.
But it's been my favorite decision by Marvel so far to make Sam Wilson Captain America, not Bucky. And I know that that's controversial to some people, but I don't know. I don't know if I just like Anthony Mackie as an actor or Sam Wilson.
Love Anthony Mackie.
Me too. And I can't get over the fact that I was like, it just wouldn't feel right to me to make Bucky Captain America.
There's a lot of reasons not to.
Right. And I'm like, there's something about him that I want him as just Bucky or White Wolf or Winter Soldier, whatever you want to do with him. But I want him to have his own thing and not like to take up the mantle of something like that. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
There's something about there's something there that like I was just like I would be a little bit like I wouldn't be I would still be very happy about it. It'd be cool, but
it's just not quite for him because I mean he has so much, like there's so much of a kind of scarred past there with all the people that he killed when he was the Winter Soldier, and just as far as like the personality, like he's not quite the leader that Steve Rogers was or that Sam Wilson is, and so like there's just a whole lot there that does not fit for him as Captain America. And I believe I could be wrong. In the comics, I do feel like there is a storyline where he becomes Captain America, but by and large, Sam Wilson being Captain America is a very large storyline in the comics. Like that happens. And so it always perturbs me when people are upset about Sam Wilson being Captain America, because like that is a fully comic accurate thing. And at that point, when people are so hardcore against it, I'm almost just like, okay, like let's just call it what it is. You don't like it because Captain America is now a black man. Like let's just be real, because so many of you want to harp on comic accuracy and staying true to the source material when it fits your viewpoints and beliefs. But if that Captain America is no longer whitewashed, all of a sudden now we have a problem with it. And yeah, I agree with you. Sam Wilson, perfect personality for it. Like, and then from an MCU perspective, Anthony Mackie is the literal perfect choice. Like that man is going to crush it.
Yep. And my favorite episode, it's a tie between the fight with John Walker in the beginning, episode 5,
number 5,
and then the finale. And I like the finale so much because I love his suit. His suit
that suit is so clean, man.
And I think people overlook the fact that that dude saved somebody by covering up shield and wings at the same
Yeah,
time,
yeah, the
and
wings thing is so cool.
a helicopter hit it, and he
Yeah.
was fine.
It's
And
that
so I was like,
vibranium, man. That vibranium is built
I
different.
know it's so built different, and it's like, oh, this. I don't know. I'm just very excited to see where Anthony Mackie as Captain America gets to go. I'm very excited. I hope. I mean, they both were called this. I hope Bucky Barnes is continuing to be to grow into White Wolf. I
Yeah,
would love
same.
to see him with like some like cool vibranium suit, like Black
That would be
Panther
dope.
esque,
Yeah,
but White Wolf, and it would be
that'd be
really
awesome.
cool to see all that. So that's why Falcon and Winter Soldier is number 2 for me.
Yeah.
Um,
I think as well. I will say this about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. There are some things that Falcon and Winter Soldier did, in my opinion, better than any MCU show. As far as a developed character, and just a character with layers and depth and yeah, just all that stuff. You're not gonna find a better character than John Walker in any of the shows. And people may hate that dude. And there is a lot of unnecessary hate for literally no reason toward the actor, which is always ridiculous anytime that happens.
right.
But it's because he portrayed him so well. But man, you want to talk about a character with layers and complexity. That, like, John Walker was that. He was so well done. One of the most well done characters in the entire MCU, in my opinion, just from like a, an actual just character standpoint, when you're evaluating a character as a whole and all the things that make a good character good in cinema and in TV, John Walker was that.
Yes.
And
Absolutely. And he's one of the bigger reasons why I have it so high as well, because I love that character as well.
yeah,
I love the fact that he turns to US agent.
yeah,
I love that. It
can't
sets
wait
up
to
for,
see him more.
yeah, sets up for Thunderbolts. And it's like, I feel like people don't understand US agent. Just think of Captain America if he was strictly America.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because Captain America ultimately is like he's for the world, and
Yeah.
no, I think that's a good pick. I have no problem with that pick because I definitely feel like there are elements of Falcon and Winter Soldier that can, yeah, I've seen people rank that as their favorite. I think that's completely justifiable. All right. Time for number one. So, I mean, at this point, our number ones are all known because process of elimination. But my number one is Loki. And honestly, Loki was my number one for a very long time. And then Moon Knight came out. And for a long time, I was like, I think Moon Knight's my number one. And as I was like really sitting and thinking through making this list last night, and I'm like making the pros and cons and thinking through every single, like these two, I thought through every single episode like fully, and I nitpicked everything about Moon Knight and Loki because I was like, okay, if I'm going to place one at one and one at two, I have to be really picky about this. And Loki, for me, you said a lot of the reasons why for me this is number one. I feel like Loki was the best paced show out of all the Marvel shows. And to me, that's a big deal because some of them were so poorly paced. I still hate that it was 6 episodes, but I do feel like it was paced really well. It had the best paced finale, in my opinion, by far. And we'll talk about the finales here in a second, just briefly. But as far as the finale goes, like, it was almost dialogue driven completely, but it was still one of the best finales just because of how well it was written, how well it was paced, and the setup leading up to that finale. In my opinion, it had the best villain out of any of the MCU shows, and villain is a big thing for me. If you get a good villain, you're going to rope me in automatically, and the introduction of He Who Remains, who is Kang, and Jonathan Majors was perfect. I don't know if they could have introduced him in a more perfect way into the MCU than they did in that show. The stakes in that show were the highest out of any show, which, again, stakes aren't everything. We talked about that with She-Hulk. And I talked about that last week in a podcast for the finale. And like, the stakes don't always have to be cosmic, right? Like, the stakes for every MCU project don't have to be, it's the end of the world or the end of the universe, because that gets tired after a while. But in this case, it worked. And the show had built up to that the entire, like, and it made sense. And like you said, it had the greatest effect on the MCU out of anything. Like, out of anything that's been done, and it might, if we're being honest, be the most impactful MCU project, period. Like, there may not be another MCU project that will have had an effect, a greater effect on everything that comes after it than Loki. And you can maybe argue that Age of Ultron or Civil War because of how it affected Thanos and Infinity War, but I still think 5 years from now, when we look back, I think we're going to look at Loki and say, like, yeah, easily, because this is the multiverse saga. The whole saga exists because Loki happened.
Right. I mean, if Loki doesn't branch off into different timelines, and if it doesn't establish the sacred timeline and that it can be branched, it's like
there's no multiverse saga.
Yeah,
that's it. Like, it's just a saga. And and then, like you said, it made you fall in love with Loki as a character so well. And I would argue, I've heard people say, "Oh, it just wasn't Loki. Like, the 2012 Loki would have never done that." And you're right. Like, for the most part, he probably wouldn't have. But I do truly feel like if you've been plucked out of reality like he was, and you're thrown into this, this TVA, and all of a sudden you're coming to grips with the reality that, like, your life could end at any moment, and you all of a sudden, like, for as powerful as you were in that other world, like, you literally have no power, you have no standing here, and it's become clear. And then on top of that, you watch, like, you think the whole thing's a farce, and you watch an entire, like, retelling of your life, essentially, and you get to watch your successes, you get to see your failures, and then you watch yourself die. And for people who are like, "Oh, 2012 Loki never would have shed a tear during that," I'm like, listen, if you went through all that, that would change a man real quick. That would invoke some emotion. I firmly believe. Mobius was great, such a good character.
Owen Wilson.
All the different Lokis in episode 5 were phenomenal. So well done. Episode 4, which was my favorite episode, the Nexus event. So that's when we find out, like, the timekeepers are not real, and Mobius gets pruned, and then Loki gets pruned, and, like, all this crap is happening, and it was just so good. And so that's why, and for all time always, the finale is also my favorite episode as well. Both of those are tied for me.
Season 2 of this is going to be
I can't wait, dude.
Chef's kiss.
I cannot wait.
No. It might push, like, in terms of shows, like, when we add more seasons to these shows, like, these lists are gonna change, and it might put it above Falcon and Winter Soldier for me too.
Yeah.
Like, it's so
well done. And I've been of the belief for a long time, Loki is one of the best pieces of media that Marvel has ever put out for the MCU, and as far as MCU projects, period. And when I do my MCU rankings, this is easily top 10 and borders top 5 for me. Just because I think it's that well done of a show. But your number one,
same here.
No surprise here, is Moon Knight, baby, and I can't even be mad at that.
It is Moon Knight, and it's a lot of bias for me. If there was a Spider-Man show, if freshman year would have came out this year, freshman year would probably be in my top 3 as well. But it didn't. So my second favorite character of all time, Moon Knight, will be up there. And it just so happened that the show was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was, man.
I really don't know how there could be criticism about the show. Like, I think they did DID so well and so tastefully that it's like it brought more awareness to that, because I heard of some organizations that deal with it where they're like, we've gotten so many, like, calls for support and, like, ways and, like, volunteers and blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, so, like, this is doing good outside of
shined a lot of awareness on it for sure.
Yeah. And so I was like, that's really good. But also, just back to the show itself, it's like, whew, Moon Knight as a character is sweet. He is Batman.
He's awesome.
Batman didn't care about lurking in the dark. Like,
yeah.
He's coming at you, and he's gonna take hits, and he's gonna keep coming at you. He's a bulldog.
Yeah.
And
fun fact about taking hits. So in the comics, canonically, Taskmaster, who was just horribly butchered in the MCU, and I really hope that Thunderbolts ends up doing some justice to that character, because holy cow, talk about screwing up all-time great villain. But Taskmaster Taskmaster, who, for those that don't
I know
know,
where you're going with this.
Taskmaster's thing is like Taskmaster is the greatest fighter in Marvel as far as like hand-to-hand combat goes, because Taskmaster has the ability to mimic anybody's fighting style and just be better at it than whoever it is that Taskmaster is mimicking. And in the comics, Taskmaster has said the one person that he hates fighting and like really can't beat is Moon Knight, because in the comics, Moon Knight does not care about avoiding punches and like trying to be fancy with the fighting. Moon Knight, just like you said, literally will just take shots for the sake of taking shots. It's like rope-a-dope with Muhammad Ali. Like, we'll just sit there and take shots, wear you down, and like just does not care, and then fights. And for Taskmaster, it's like, there's no reason for me to mimic your fighting style because it's so horribly ineffective because I'm just getting beat up. And so a little fun fact about comic Moon Knight and Taskmaster there.
Yeah, that's a big reason why he's one of my, like, when I first heard about that, I was like, that is the most gangster thing.
Right.
The most OG.
It so is.
Like, that is sweet. And I don't know, Moon Knight, just the show itself, I can't pick a favorite episode. I really can't. I loved every single one of them.
Episode 1 was so good.
I know.
Like, this started off so well.
Yeah. Spoiler for finale rankings. This one's my favorite finale too. It entered like him and Scarlet Scarab.
The Scarlet Scarab reveal was sweet.
It was sick, and I was just like, this is one of my favorite duos currently. Like, it's even beating out Captain America and White Wolf at this point in my head. I'm like, shoot, like, this is awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait to see more of them.
Yeah, but yeah, Moon Knight's my number one.
That was good. Yeah, I think the only thing that for me, like one of the nitpicky things that had to move it to number 2 for me, and I've heard this criticism of others, and I've agreed with it, and again, still enjoyed the show, but one thing that I wish Moon Knight would have done is, well, couple things. So we heard ahead of time, like we heard Kevin Feige say that, oh yeah, like there are a couple times in Moon Knight where it, we get so like gritty and violent, and we think to ourselves like, oh, should we pull back? Should we pull our punches? And no, we just go for it. And so they said that before the show, and I remember thinking like, yes, we are getting dark, violent Moon Knight, and we never really did. Like, we saw dark, violent Moon Knight after the fact. Like, we saw Jake Lockley kill a bunch of people, but we didn't actually see how that happened. But that's, and again, I thought the way that they did the Jake Lockley thing was brilliant. I thought it was perfect. So I'm not even knocking that. But like, we were teased with all this grittiness and violence that we were supposed to get, and we didn't get it. So it's like, okay, Kevin Feige, you straight up lied to us. Or your perception of like what is actually gritty and violent is so horribly off base. So that kind of ticked me off a little bit, but again, that's a very minor thing. But the bigger thing for me that kind of put it at number 2 was that it started off with this like really just weird, mysterious tone for episodes like 1 and 2, and then it got away from that on episodes 3 and 4, and they were still good episodes. I loved episodes 3 and 4, but like the tone, there was definitely a tonal shift. All of a sudden the show became something completely different for episodes 3 and 4, and I loved it, but it was not the same. And then episode 5 was its own thing, which was perfect. And then episode 6, the finale, which I have it high in my finale rankings as well, but also like it was still a little bit different in tone. So like tonally, the show wasn't always sure where it was going, which again, talked about that, like that's an issue with the MCU shows, and they need to figure that out, which She-Hulk has. Like, you say what you will about She-Hulk, but She-Hulk figured out the tone thing. Like, it had the same tone, it knew what it was from day one, and it stuck with it. And I don't know, maybe Hawkeye was the only one, but Hawkeye even still like kind of in the finale switched that.
Yeah.
So, and I guess What If, you could say, stayed true to its tone the entire time, so I will give it that. Loki did for the most part, but yeah, so that's like Moon Knight season 2. I hope we get that same tone that we had for those first couple episodes and get it the whole way through. That dark, that gritty, that mysterious. It's what makes Moon Knight Moon Knight. But yeah, again, being nitpicky because I have to be, because you got to play some 1 and 2 somewhere. But yeah, not mad at that at all. So yeah, your rankings from bottom to top: I Am Groot number 9, Hawkeye 8, She-Hulk 7, Miss Marvel 6, What If 5, Dark Horse, WandaVision 4, Loki 3, Winter Soldier 2, and Moon Knight number 1. Mine: Groot number 9, What If 8, Miss Marvel 7, Falcon 6, Hawkeye 5, She-Hulk 4, Wanda 3, Moon Knight 2, and Loki number 1. Not a bad set of rankings for either of us. Yeah. And
I think that the core here, Moon Knight, Loki, and WandaVision were just phenomenal shows in general.
Yeah, they were.
And I feel like that's going to be in a lot of people's top 5s.
It's going to be hard not to put those there, in my opinion. Although I have seen some rankings that, like, some people did not love Moon Knight as much as we did, but I think Moon Knight fans loved Moon Knight. But I think there are some people who aren't Moon Knight fans. I definitely do think that that's one show that, if you are not familiar with Moon Knight, the character in the comics, I could see that being one where you didn't enjoy it near as much. Because there were a lot of things, like when Carly and I would watch it, she would be very confused on, that I knew just by knowing the comic character. So like, there are a lot of people who had no idea that Steven and Mark are like these different characters, and like they had no idea. Also, I can hear myself echoing in your mic a little bit. Yeah. So I just think there's a definite benefit to knowing the comics in that one, which, I mean, that happens anytime you have comic source material. Like, sometimes that's just going to be the nature of it. But yeah. So that's our show ranking. Real quick, as we wrap up, we said we wanted to do a finale ranking, so we're going to do that. Not nearly as lengthy. This is going to be much more quick hitters just to get them done. But I feel like since we have all the rankings, or all the shows, it's only fair to do the finale rankings, since we had the She-Hulk finale last week. So I'll start it off at number 9. And now, knowing your show ranking, you're probably going to hate this one, but my number 9 finale is What If again. And so, I mean, a lot of the same reason for me for What If. Again, just harder to be invested in the character, so I didn't quite care as much about the finale. The finale was fun. Mm-hmm. It was well done, but the emotional investment just wasn't there. I have it at number 9.
My number 9 is I Am Groot.
Oh, gosh, what am I talking about? Yeah, I spoiler, number 8 is What If for me. I forgot about I Am Groot completely. Yeah, I Am Groot is number 9. I don't know what I'm doing. I honestly just completely forgot that was a show.
I thought you had one where you're like, I like this episode.
Because I Am Groot didn't even like have a finale, technically. It's just like, whatever. That's so funny. Yeah, I Am Groot's number 9.
Yeah, I Am Groot's number 9 for me. Number 8, I will probably say, this is gonna be weird, Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Okay, I respect that. So why Falcon and Winter Soldier for number 8?
With everything that I have above it, finale wise, I just think have more of a implication into the MCU than Falcon and Winter Soldier did, I think.
Okay, that's fair.
I think it's because I'm a little salty that I can't theorize off of the finale of that one. Like the
quite
rest
as
of them,
much,
I can
yeah.
Theorize something.
It's pretty clear cut and dry, yeah. Number 7 for my finales is Falcon Winter Soldier, and I already talked about weak villain, power broker, stunk. Had some cool moments, but overall, I just remember, first impressions are everything. I remember being very underwhelmed by the finale the first time I watched it. And I remember being so hyped up going into it. And so to be that hyped up and then that underwhelmed, that just kind of stuck with me. And yeah, that's number 7 for me.
Number 7 for me is going to be Miss Marvel.
Okay.
It was great. It was so really good. But I just like the finales of some of these other shows a little better. That's
fair. I can vibe with that. Number 6 for me is Hawkeye. Again, loved Hawkeye the show. Show is phenomenal. The finale is really good too. I thoroughly, again, not an episode of Hawkeye I did not like. Loved them all. But I do feel like, again, as is much the problem with a lot of the Disney Plus MCU shows, the finale was very rushed. A lot of stuff that was thrown into this finale. And then also so much more that could have and should have been done with Kingpin. Obviously, they can redeem it because Kingpin is not done in the MCU. We got a lot more Kingpin coming in, but for that to be Kingpin's introduction into the MCU, very disappointing. Hope they redeem him in some of the later shows in Echo and Born Again and whatever else he shows up in.
Yeah.
So number 6 is Hawkeye for me.
My number 6 is also Hawkeye for most of the same reasons.
I think that's the first time we had him ranked the same for anything.
Yeah. I'm on the boat of where I really think they could have had a Spider-Man cameo, and it would have been so much better. But
yeah,
it's all right.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, it didn't make or break it, but yeah, definitely. They gave us a lot of reason to think that it would happen.
And my number 5 is What If.
Okay.
I really like that finale. I thought it was really cool. The Watcher and Ultron and all of that. I liked the little, the post-apocalyptic world that they were in. I thought that was really cool. So that's why I got What If at number 5.
Yeah. Can't even disagree with that because a very well done finale. Like, there's not anything about the finale that I didn't really like. It's just that the emotional investment wasn't there for me. So fully respect that. Number 5 for me is WandaVision. So WandaVision is ranked much higher as a show for me. The finale was still entertaining. I liked it, but again, it suffered from the tonally very inconsistent from what the rest of the show was. It's everything that She-Hulk made fun of in its final show, where it's like WandaVision was the super consistent, mysterious, great tone throughout the entire thing, and in the last show, like, let's throw a bunch of CGI at it, and it just became like this massive cluster of CGI fighting, which was entertaining. Like I'll be the first to admit I was entertained with it. But it was totally different. It was a lot crammed into one episode. Wasn't bad. I liked it, but it does drop it a few spots lower than what I actually had the show ranked. My number 4 is Miss Marvel. So I talked about this before. I think Miss Marvel is one of the most well-done shows, but I also think it is one of the most well-done finales. I thought the finale was incredibly well-paced. It was very fun, very entertaining. The X-Men reveal was just insane. I don't have any issues with the finale whatsoever. It made me laugh. There was good action, a very good coming of age moment for Kamala Khan, finally becoming the superhero that she'd been wanting to be. Her parents accepting her. It was great. Loved it. Number 4 is that.
Yep. My number 4 was WandaVision. I think that one just speaks for itself. I like the everything they did with Wiccan and Speed and Vision. I like the whole small side stories that are not they weren't closed up. A lot was left on the table for it. Mm-hmm. So I really enjoyed that.
We don't fully know what's going on with Agatha. Wiccan and Speed, Tommy, Billy, still a version of them is out there that we assume we're going to see. Vision's still out there. There's still the Maria Rambeau stuff. There's still Jimmy Woo, a lot of stuff that's been unfinished. Number 4 for you. Or number 3. Sorry, we just did number 4.
Number 3. I accidentally just deleted my list. What do I have left? I don't remember. Here. I'll do my number 3 as you're thinking of your number 3. So my number 3 finale is Moon Knight.
Again, love the show Moon Knight. Moon Knight's number 2 is my show. Number 3 is my finale. I thought, again, exactly the same thing that I said about WandaVision just a couple rankings ago, that Moon Knight, completely different tone in the finale than the rest of the show. It just became literally a massive CGI cluster fight because you had 2 massive monsters with Khonshu and Amit fighting each other by a pyramid, which was cool, but also it's you guys are the epitome of what people are saying is wrong with Marvel right now. And then the Moon Knight fighting, and just again, it was a lot of stuff crammed into an episode. That being said, it was exciting. It did have great action. It was very fun and entertaining. I loved the payoff of finally seeing Steven and Mark come together and coexisting as Moon Knight and becoming in my opinion, I know Mark had been Moon Knight prior to that. Before the show starts, we know that Mark is Moon Knight. But in my opinion, that is when Moon Knight actually happened, because Moon Knight does not exist without Stephen Grant and Mark Spector. working cohesively.
Together.
Yeah, and they figured that out, and it was so cool to see like them switching between Mr. Knight and Moon Knight like mid fight. It was just, that was so cool. So yeah, number 3 because it does have faults, but also amazing moments. And then the Jake Lockley reveal at the end, just perfect.
I got my list back. Number 3 is She-Hulk for me.
Okay.
Just fourth wall break. Marching into
epic.
Like she just like, and then looking at the camera and going like, when are we gonna get the X-Men? Like, oh,
bro, like jaw literally dropped when she said that. I could not believe that we actually got a verbal mention of X-Men.
Yeah, and it's in a like a fourth wall moment where she's talking to quote unquote Kevin.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, like, hey, all right, Kevin, when are we getting the X-Men?
Like, come on now. Like, one of our own characters is asking the MCU guru.
Yeah.
Like, when is this happening? I thought that was really cool. It's like it's this discrepancy of where I've got the show ranked, but like the finale, like I don't know, it was one of the finales where my jaw was on the floor the
whole time. Yeah.
Especially with the Scar appearance at the end.
Yeah.
Like
did not expect to see that.
As it was, like I was still like excited for it.
Yep. Completely agree.
He looked a little goofy, but you know.
Yeah, someone's got to get that boy a barber, man, because woo.
Yeah, for sure. But then, my number 2 is going to be Loki. That finale was awesome.
So good.
Just, you know, Jonathan Major as Kang and Sylvie and Loki and everything that was, and then Loki's we don't know where he's quite at right now. Like he's got to figure out, like it left on such a good cliffhanger setup for season 2.
It did. Absolutely. Yeah. So my number 2 is She-Hulk. She-Hulk. Yeah. The She-Hulk finale. The thing I love about it is that for every Marvel show, for almost every TV show period, anytime there's a break in between episodes, you get a week break. People are going to theorize, especially with Marvel. It's going to happen because there's source material that it's based off of. So we already have an idea of where it may be going. And so it offers us an avenue to theorize based on what we know happens in comics. And so we sat on this show and theorized for weeks about what could be happening later on in the show and what could happen in the finale. And I remember 2 weeks ago, we sat and we theorized like crazy about what we thought was going to happen in the finale. And I feel like we were just throwing anything at the wall to see what sticks. Like we threw out so many varieties of endings and we thought, okay, surely one of these will be somewhat on point. And I genuinely mean this. I don't know if there is a person on planet Earth that accurately called what happened in that finale. Like I don't, aside from anybody who's involved with the show, I don't know there's anybody that expected that to happen. Like literally breaking through the Disney Plus home screen, going to the actual Marvel Studios, talking with the robot Kevin Feige, and just dogging on what people have been harping on the MCU about, and like being so self-aware of the faults that the MCU has had in Phase 4, addressing those and just saying like, hey, we see you fans, this is a turning point. Like, yeah, I mean, it was funny. Daredevil showed back up. It shattered the mold for...
And Daredevil showed back up as her significant other.
Right. I'm here for it.
I'm here for it.
She-Devil, I'm here for it, man. It was groundbreaking, unique, refreshing, shattered the mold in every way. I loved it. And the only reason that it is not number 1 for me is because Loki is number 1 in both of my rankings. And I already talked about the Loki finale. The reveal of Jonathan Majors as Kang, so good. It was purely dialogue driven, and yet the finale, like I was on the edge of my seat, and it was suspenseful the entire time, even though it was just dialogue. Because I don't know how many times I haven't seen the episode this many times, but I bet I have watched Kang's dialogue in that episode probably 15 to 20 times, like just because it's so good and he delivers it so well. And then, obviously you're setting up the big bad for the MCU for the next 4 or so years in epic fashion. And just great.
Yeah. And then my number 1 is Moon Knight, earlier.
So we both had the same number 1s for both things. So that's funny.
Yeah. I thoroughly enjoyed the Khonshu Amit fight.
Yeah, I thought the fight was good. I see like tonally, I could see where that went wrong. But yeah, I was entertained by the fight. I liked it.
I would have much rather seen like an Arthur Harrow like avatar, like a cool suit up for him. Something like if they decided to go like they normally go off comic, like they go like slightly just like.
Well, they already went off comic for went off comic for Harrow anyway, because if you read the Moon Knight comics, Arthur Harrow is in like one comic. He's not anything what he is in the show, which is fine. I loved the direction that they went, but it's like, if you're already going off comic already, might as well give that man a suit at the end or something.
Exactly. Like, go ahead and like just do something cool with it. I would love to have seen like a Moon Knight him showdown, like a really epic fight scene.
Yeah.
Like something that we, back in the early 2000s we would get like, at the very end of I just wanted a showdown, like a I
agree.
I was very happy with it because Scarlet Scarab, I pray and hope we get her more. I pray that I just like her as a character so much.
Yeah.
And I like that the hero himself as well.
Yeah, it was amazing. So, yeah. Those are finale ranks, and that's the show. That is everything that we have for you guys this week. Whole lot of fun ranking those and reliving each of those shows and each of those finales, because honestly, I know that they haven't been without their faults, but I've enjoyed them, and I look forward to every MCU show, and I'm going to continue to look forward to them. And I think that they have some really good MCU shows coming down the pike, especially with like Secret Invasion that's coming up. That show is going to be absolutely insane. I cannot wait. But join us next week, because next week I believe this is tentative, but I think we're going to set it in stone that I think we're going to do a little bit of a fantasy draft of sorts with some MCU characters, and I won't tell you what that's going to be about, but you guys will have to wait and see how we do that and what that looks like next week and what that pertains to. But yeah, that's the episode. Thank you guys so much for hanging out, for listening, for subscribing, for your guys' support. Make sure you guys leave that 5-star review. Make sure you send an email. We still haven't gotten one, so we're waiting for it. Send an email with any questions or comments about the episode or about future episodes or our thoughts and opinions on stuff, and we would love to address those and talk about it. And yeah, we love you guys. Thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you guys next week. Peace out, nerds.